Welcome back, Rav Alex. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We have a custom in Yeshiva. When you ask a question, you're really not asking a question. It's because you have an answer, but to share your answer, you ask a question. So I'll start by asking you a question. Why is specifically the commandment of Mishloach Manot ish l're'ehu, what's that have to do with Purim? I understand eating matzah on Pesach. That has to do with the story. I understand sitting in a sukkah. And I understand thanking God, saying Hallel maybe, or maybe reading Megillah, but why would Esther institute sending Mishloach Manot ish l're'ehu? What's that have to do with the Purim story?
So Mishloach Manot, it's very interesting, has a history, I think, in Tanakh. When you look in the book of Nechemia, and
most people don't.
Most people don't look in the book of Nechemia. But if you know the book of Nechemia, which is more or less the same time, they celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Here we are in Nechemia, Perek Chet, and it talks about it's Rosh Hashanah, and they want to celebrate. And they talk about the idea, Ichlu mashmanim ushtu mamtakim, eat and drink sweet foods, v'shilchu manot le'in nachon lo. In other words, the way they celebrated a Chag in ancient times was you didn't only have nice meals yourself, but you celebrated by giving presents to other people. By the way, this is also true. This goes back right to the Torah, Sefer Devarim, the Shalosh Regalim. You always provide for the ger, yatom, the almanah, the levi asher b'sha'arecha. So when Esther wants to say that Purim should be a Chag, just like Rosh Hashanah, just like Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, what does she say? Celebrate it, put on your Shabbat suit, and also have a Suda, and also send Mishloach Manot. In other words, this is the classic way, the classic Jewish way to have a Chag. Before Pesach, Kimcha de Pischa. Before every Chag, we give tzedakah, and providing for others is part of every single Chag.
Like what we do on Yom Ha'atzmaut, we daven Yom Tov Dik.
Something like that, right? We try and make Yom Ha'atzmaut more Yom Ha'atzmaut, so we put on a white shirt, and we use the Yom Tov Nusach.
Like candles, maybe.
There you go.
Okay. I want to add something, maybe disagree. Because, of course, in fact, the Rambam Hilchot Yom Tov says the part of Yom Tov is, taking care of the poor and the needy. Remember, it's not Simchat Yom Tov, it's you and your family. It's Simchat Kreso. He's making his tummy happy. But I'll use the word nachon, but you pointed out. Who are we sending presents to? La'in nachon lo. Someone who doesn't have. That's different than Mishloach Manot ish l're'ehu.
Right.
Now, Matonot v'Yavinim, I agree with. I'm pretty sure there's not one other holiday or any other place in Jewish law where we have a commandment to send gifts and food to our friends, not someone in need. Adarabah, we're sending ish l're'ehu. And that's a key phrase. I want to go back to what I said before, is that the author of the Megillah, and maybe here Esther herself, when sending out the letter, is using that phrase on purpose. Because again, the messages of the Megillah are hidden, but they can be understood by people who not own the book of Nechemia, because maybe it wasn't written yet in the time of Esther, but Zecharia, I think, was. In fact, the very last prophecy that the Jews of the diaspora received from God was in Zecharia Perek Zayin Chet, where the temple, construction had begun in the temple in the second year of Daryavesh. It's going to be finished in the 6th year of Daryavesh. But in the 4th year of Daryavesh, a delegation from the exile comes to Jerusalem with a big question: do we continue fasting on Tisha B'Av and on the 4 fast days?
Right, they saw the temple was already being built, and they said, maybe we can stop fasting. Right?
Maybe we don't need to do instructional swimming this summer. We can do real swimming in camp and don't have to make a siyum. It makes a big difference if the temple is being, to our lives in Chutz La'aretz. And of course, Zecharia gives it to him. Did I ask you to fast? He says, don't ask me Dioraisis. Don't ask me Drabanans. You decided to fast. That's your problem. If you want to know basically what you're asking, what are you asking? You're asking, is this really the redemption? Is this Reshit Simchat Golotenu? Zechariah's answer is real simple. Don't ask God, ask yourselves. I'm giving you an opportunity. He says in Perek Zayin, I'm bringing you back from the east and the west. Look what I'm doing. I'm being involved. In fact, I'll quote what he tells them. He tells them, he says, just like in Perek Chet in Zecharia, when he gives the answer, he says, just like I got involved and brought in the Babylonians to kick you out and send you to exile, I'm now bringing the Persians, King Zamamti, to be good for you. I'm the one behind these historical events. Recognize that. Then he tells them, what is it that you need to do? Not fasting. He says as follows, Pasuk Tet Zayin. Eila hadvarim asher tasu, pay attention to the phrases. Dabru emet, ish et re'eu. See, ish et re'eu? Emet u'mishpat shalom shiftu b'sharechem. Do truth and do justice and peace in the gates, of justice in your cities. V'ish et rat re'eu al tachshuvu b'avavchem. That's our biggest problem nowadays. Don't think evil. Everything on the news is, he's no good, no one's good. Think good things about other people. Don't criticize everyone. Ask what you can do. But think positive about your fellow Jew. And don't lie. These are the things that God hates. And then he says, if that's how you're going to behave, Soma Revi, the famous 4 fast days, and Soma Chamishi, the 4 fast days, Yele Beit Yudah, L'sason u'lesimcha, u'lamadim tovim, ve'emet v'shalom ahavu. What's he saying? If you act that way, and bemet have shalom, ben ish and re'eu, and you build that type of society, not just of taking care of the poor, but being kind to one another, and being nice to people who don't need your help, but just get along as a society, then the fast days can become holidays.
Well, this seems to connect at the end of the Megillah, where it says that they send out the last letters, Divrei Shalom ve'emet, and they also mention Divrei Tzomot v'zakatam. Is there a connection there?
There's got to be. That's what Esther wanted the reader to put together, because why is she sending a second letter? I remember after the first letter, which the first letter was, how do we celebrate Purim? We turn a fast day into a feast day. Mishloach Manot Lev. I don't think the people really, they understood. But what they need to do now, they need an explanation why. Esther has to send a second letter. She writes, remember, Kol Tokef? I don't think she needs legislation. She needs education. Like nowadays, we don't need more legislation. We need education. And therefore, she has to explain what's the reason for that, for this decree. What does she send? What's in the letter? Divrei Shalom ve'emet. And then, why am I sending Divrei Shalom ve'emet? I think she's referring to the Nevuah of Zecharia. In order to keep Purim the way we instituted, just like Esther Mordechai kept, and just like the Jews took upon themselves to fast on the 4 fast days. What's the connection between the 4 fast days of Zecharia and Mishloach Manot Ish L'Reu? If you know Zecharia, it's obvious. And therefore, the end of the Megillah is exactly that point. That what Esther is alluding to, if this is going to be an eternal holiday, it has to have an eternal message. And if maybe the Jews, when Cyrus gave his decree and the Jews returned and began building the temple, most of the Jews of the diaspora did not return. That we know. Not every generation has that opportunity. But should an opportunity come to return to your land and build the Beit HaMikdash and rebuild a Jewish society in the land of Israel, make sure it's not enough just to return and live there. Make sure the society you build is a society of Shalom V'emet. And the laws of Purim, if I'm going to thank God, we don't have to say thank you, we have to act thank you. And symbolically, the act of giving Mishloach Manot Ish L'Reu is going to remind us not just of thanking God, not just of Hallel and just helping the poor, but building a society that's worthy of having a Mikdash in Yerushalayim and worthy of being called God's people. Hopefully, that'll help us.
It's so interesting that this becomes a theme in the whole Megillah. Instead of being Am Mefuzar Mufurad, we're Nikolu V'Yamod Al Nafsham. That one of the big themes is the sense of real unity and learning how to live together.
And that's why Purim will be there forever. It'll be door for all generations. And even in the times of Mashiach, it will remain, which should come hopefully speedily in our own time.